Hello and welcome once again to the Cory Sauter Show here in Studio One. I'm Kelly Loft, Athletic Communications Director at Southwest Minnesota State University, and once again it's time to talk Mustang football with the head coach of the Mustangs, Cory Sauter. We'll look back at last week's game versus Wayne State College. A Mustang lost 38-20, and then we'll look ahead and watch preview the Mustangs game versus Minnesota State Moorhead coming up this Saturday at the Regional Event Center. And joining us as always is the head coach of the Mustangs, Cory Sauter, as we talk and we'll look at highlights of last week's game versus the Wildcats from Wayne State College, a team that was ranked nationally earlier this season and showed why on Saturday, beating the Mustangs by a score of 38-20. A very close game in the first half, and it stayed that way into the fourth, but a couple of touchdowns in the second half proved to be the difference, and a very strong Wayne State defense held the Mustangs in check offensively in the second half as they get the win 38-20 over SMSU. And Coach, we'll talk and look at some of the highlights more in depth, but this three-week stretch of games, and it'll continue obviously this week with the Minnesota State Moorhead team that's won a few games as well, but we knew 3 games were going to be very tough against Bemidji State, Augustana, and Wayne State, 3 teams that have gotten ranked this year, and it proved to be a tough stretch of games. And physically, it took its toll, I'm sure, as well, but very disappointing to lose on Saturday night.
Well, it sure was. We thought we had our best week of practice up to date, and I thought our guys were prepared physically, mentally to go. We had some guys that were back from some injuries, and we felt like we were in good shape, and so that was the disappointing thing is the fact that we got off to a bad start. They scored 21 points in the first quarter, and that's tough to overcome. And they sort of dictated the ball game, from the get-go.
Yeah, the Mustangs started on defense to begin the game, and Wayne State, give them credit, went down and scored that first touchdown of the game, took a 7-0 lead, then led 14-0. And you got some momentum on a nice drive with Warren Matthews scoring a touchdown. And amazing how that works in football. You get that momentum. I know the sideline was energized, the crowd was into it, and then the ensuing kickoff goes to an All-American from Wayne State, and Frederick Bruno, and he takes it 91 yards, and it just switched like that. And I give you guys credit. You came back and did make it 21-14, but plays like that this last few weeks have really been the difference in getting a win or not. Is a special teams play here or a turnover in a bad spot, and that was a great example of kind of a microcosm in the last 3 weeks. Right,
and we tried to stay in the ball game, but whenever you give up a touchdown in special teams, that's never good, and it's just one less possession that you have on offense, a quick score, and that definitely takes momentum out of your favor and begins to kind of deteriorate a little bit as far as your mindset in your own team. So they did a nice job in all their schemes. Their offense was a well-oiled machine. I mean, they didn't do anything too fancy. They ran the option. They ran the ball, I believe, 50 times, and really didn't get a ton of average yards per run. Only at 3 yards a carry, I believe, or so, and. So we kind of kept them in check, but then they were able to mix in the play action off of that, and really made it difficult to really stop their whole offense.
And that offense by Wayne State, I mean, there's a lot of newer versions and plays off of that, but it goes back to a principle of 30, 40 years ago of option and kind of a wing tee. There's guys coming in motion, and it's amazing how football sometimes goes back to where it started, and basically that's what that kind of offense is.
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't anything fancy, anything in particular. I mean, they kind of lull you to sleep a little bit, and you just kind of, you're not always sure where exactly, who the ball carrier is, and but the nice thing that they have going is they've got the players to run that offense. They got a very talented quarterback that's very elusive, very shifty, and ran that offense very, very well. They've got a nice offensive line in front of them, so definitely got to give them credit. They executed. They didn't. They weren't careless with the football, and they made it very difficult for us to really get any momentum on our end.
Well, on the bright side for the Mustangs in the contest, Warren Matthews returned to the starting lineup. He'd been out for a game a couple of weeks ago with an injury, played a little bit against Augustana, but good to see Matthews back in the mix, returning kickoffs, and really had a pretty, very solid game. Both he and Gannon Moore give you a very good, potent attack, running the ball when you can, and get a lead and whatnot. Yeah. But Warren showed his ability to run the football, but also catch the ball in the backfield, and picked up a couple of touchdowns, both running and receiving.
Yes, and one thing about our offense is we've done pretty decent in the first half, where the game is still somewhat in balance, where we have the opportunity to run the ball and throw the ball. And it was nice seeing Warren back there. He gives us a nice dimension in our passing game, and they decided to blitz on that one touchdown that he caught, and it was just cover zero, no deep safeties. They brought six-man pressure, and essentially it's Warren on a linebacker, and that's a pretty good matchup. And once he caught the ball, I mean, there's very few guys that are going to be able to catch him from behind, and so that was nice to have him back and have two good solid backs in our offense.
Now, when you come to the line of scrimmage, we'll see that highlight here later on, and you as a former quarterback and Ryan Radican now the quarterback for the Mustangs, are there things when you break the huddle and you get to the line of scrimmage that you could see right off the bat? And was that situation you talk about no safety help, and is that something where you're licking your chops as a coach and saying, okay, this is exactly the play that we want, and is that where audible comes into effect there as well? But I'm sure as a quarterback, Ryan sees that right off the bat and thinks, what goes through the quarterback's mind to think that Warren will probably be the man I'm going to throw this football to?
Right. Well, a couple things. One is, some plays we have checks built into our huddle call, so we can actually check to another play. It's already predetermined what we might want to get to. That wasn't the case for this play. It was a pre-called play. We were going to run it regardless of what defense we saw. And a lot of our plays that we have a beater against pressure, a beater versus cover 3, cover 2. And it was very obvious that they were going to bring pressure in that situation. And they brought the backers, that the safeties were coming down to cover our receivers. And Ryan did a nice job as far as buying some time. He knew exactly where he wanted to go with it. It's just a matter, okay, can we get the ball off on time? And that's the risk you take, and that's the risk that they take, knowing that if we do complete it, that's potentially what could happen. And we definitely had the right call on. Warren was able to get inside his defender, and once he catches it, again, he's going to be a tough guy to bring down in open space with the linebacker.
Yeah, it was a big play for Warren Matthews, a 41-yard touchdown. And off of that, Coach, talking about audibles, and we've seen that a lot this season where Ryan might check down to something different. What are the options that you give him or any of your quarterbacks, both he or Tyler Prashon, to audible anytime, or what kind of reads do they have to see to possibly change the play?
Well, we have really a lot of different things that we have in our system that allows us to get into a good play. And in every ball game, you're going to have those 60, 70 plays that you're going to have, and we hate to waste any of them. In this case scenario here, it was pretty much a situation. Sometimes we will check from a run play to another run play. Okay. Sometimes we might check from a run play to a pass play, sometimes a pass play to a pass play, or a pass play to a run play. And in all those scenarios, there's different things that we're looking for. So for example, we may have a run play and possibly check it to a pass play. And part of that may be some indicators of how many defenders are in the box. And when we say in the box, we mean from the tackle to the tackle. And if we're in a one-back set and they have 6 guys in that box, a lot of times we're going to end up running the football. Okay, if they get that 7th defender down that box, that's when we can check and get to a pass, something on the perimeter, something where we can exploit their corners. And then you can go the vice versa of that. We can have a pass check to a run. So the pass could be checked first or called first. That's really what we want to run and call and execute. And if they don't give us the right look, then we go ahead and check to the run. So it's really our quarterbacks are pretty well in tune to what we're looking for each particular play, and that will dictate what type of read that he'll have on that particular play.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing chess game that goes on between coaches and the players throughout the game, and we'll touch on more on that here during this week's show. But again, the Mustangs fall 38-20 to Wayne State. Warren Matthews led the team with 53 yards rushing, also had 83 yards receiving, and had 2 touchdowns in the contest. And we talked about the plays of a game, the 60 plays or so, and that's one thing Wayne State really did a nice job of controlling the clock. As you mentioned, they didn't have a lot of big plays and not a lot of total yards for a team that's ranked nationally in yardage, but they grinded it out and kept your offense off the field.
Well, yeah, and especially that first quarter. I mean, we were essentially out there for just a handful of plays, and that can be frustrating, especially for younger players that aren't mature and experienced. They get frustrated, and we try to do the same thing to other teams. If you have a good offense, you want to try to keep that opposing offense off the field. Now, we haven't been able to do that very well this year, and that's part of the reason why we've struggled at times. And so again, they execute their offense very well. Nothing flashy, but they definitely get the mileage out of what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and the Mustangs did score a couple of touchdowns in that first half, trailed by 10 at halftime, and you punted on your first possession, and then your defense did a great job. And it was a great example of just it's a team game from the defense, offense, and special teams. Your defense gets that stop, one in the first half, and then to start the second half, and it just couldn't get that offense flowing. He had a nice run by Warren Matthews, but you couldn't get anything sustained after that. And that's kind of been, as you mentioned, a trend against Bemidji State. You really had success in the first half, and in the second half, it just hasn't been able to evolve. And I suppose there's a lot of different parts, a lot of new players on this year's squad, and it's just going to take some time.
Yeah, it does take time, and offense does take a little more. And not to say that defense doesn't, but it always takes a little bit longer to get everybody on the same page. We've got to get everybody trusting one another and really understanding not only what their job is, but what the guy next to him has to do as well, so that he can perform his job that much better. We're just not to that point yet, and so that'll come with experience. That'll come with additional practice, and when you play against the teams that we played against these past several weeks, any type of weakness is going to be shown, immediately, and it has. And so we've got to just regroup. We got to get back to the basics, and we got to just find a way to play with a little more confidence, a little more swagger, and just get that excitement back. When you talk about 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s, there's just a lot of those that, for whatever reason, we just didn't convert, and we have to be able to convert those. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, and of course, converting those 3rd downs keeps your offense on the field, which can get you some points, and honestly keeps your defense on the sideline, where you love to have them there the whole time, so your offense is scoring points. So it didn't work at times there in the ball game, but the Mustangs did fight hard and scored a late touchdown on a Tyler Pashon touchdown pass to Lester Lewis. But the Mustangs fall 38-20 to the Wayne State College Wildcats, and Wayne State now 4-1 overall, and a team that, again, was nationally ranked just a couple of weeks ago. We're going to take a look at some of the highlights from this past weekend's games, and we start off on the offensive side of the football, Coach, and again, Warren Matthews, nice game running the football and receiving as well.
Yeah, but we've got, this is one of the earlier plays in the game. We wanted to try to establish the run, and we were able to get some success early with that, and we wanted to try to stay with it as long as possible.
Here's that touchdown pass, Warren Matthews right across the middle, and gets covered by a linebacker, and no chance there. He'll be on the right-hand side of your screen here on this next shot.
Yep, and you can see both backers coming to Ryan's left. He buys some times, gets it out on time, and it's a foot race, and he's going to win a lot of those races.
That was a 41-yard touchdown pass. And continue on the offensive side, Ryan Radican scrambling nearly gets a touchdown.
Yeah, we actually had a breakdown as far as the routes, and Ryan did a nice job of recognizing that and pulling the ball down. One thing about Ryan is he is very elusive. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it, but he can make guys miss and does a nice job there.
Well, just a few plays later, Warren Matthews plows in from a couple of yards out for a touchdown.
Yeah, but we don't block it very well. But Warren did a nice job as far as keeping his balance and really keeping his body going forward, and did a nice job getting in.
That made the score 21-14. Mustangs trailed, and now we go on the defensive side, and here Adam Iverson knocks away a ball, and actually it's a backwards pass, so it a forced fumble.
Right, and he's a guy that's come a long ways. He's filled in. He almost jumps off sides there, but recovers, and makes a nice play. And it's nice seeing those younger guys making some plays early in their career.
And Mark Schomeyer with a sack here in the Mustangs at the defensive line. Good hit on the quarterback Johnson.
Absolutely, you can see him here on the left-hand side. Swims a guy, makes a big hit. Been nice to get a fumble there as well.
Yeah, but good job by the Cats. No turnovers in the game for either teams. And here's two of the top players in the Mustang defense, Nick DeConeva and Robbie Slinkman.
Yep, and this is what we're trying to do the entire game is get a bunch of guys swarming to those ball carriers, trying to create a turnover, and it was nice to see those guys playing.
There's a sack by the Mustangs. There's Robbie Slinkman coming up the middle, and we continue on now in the third quarter, and a big hit this is a big run by Warren Matthews. It really got you out of a hole.
Yep, and they kind of pinned us back, with field position, and we were able to get some of our two-back runs going. And Warren just is a tremendous talent as far as once he gets to the outside, he's got tremendous speed, and we're pretty much one tackle away from breaking it all the way.
Now we go back to the defensive side. John Kirschberger, who led the team with 10 tackles, knocks out the quarterback here for a few plays. A big hit here by number 8.
This was just a tremendous hit, and it was a clean hit too. It wasn't a cheap one, and I was very surprised to see their quarterback be able to play after this. He's a tough kid and runs their offense very well, but nice hit there.
Kurt Gossard, number 24, big tackle for loss here, stepping up from his cornerback spot.
Yep, that was a tough tackle. He had a guy on him, blocking him, and he was able to elude him and get off it and really make a nice tackle there.
And now we go to the fourth quarter. Warren Matthews, again, 4 catches in the ball game here with the screen, the reception here in the middle of the field.
We got a middle screen, tucks it inside. We get good blocking down the field. This is a play that we showed to our team as far as their defensive end coming here. He's actually the one that makes the play, retracting all the way back. Just a tremendous effort by their player. Otherwise, it would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, it is an incredible hustle. And here's a touchdown pass. Tyler Prashon to Lester Lewis.
Okay, had a little double move down here in the red zone, and Lester gets his guy to bite on it, and Tyler makes his second career touchdown pass of the year.
And good to see Lester had a possible touchdown that went to the wayside earlier in the contest, but came back and got that catch. He finished the ball game with 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. And again, Tyler Prashon, you saw the touchdown pass there. 5 of 9 passing for 55 yards and a touchdown. And John Kirschberger, as I mentioned, led the team in tackles with 10 as the Mustangs fall to Wayne State by a score of 38-20. And one thing I want to go back to, Coach, we talked about some of the decisions that have to be made at the line of scrimmage by your quarterback. But one thing a lot of fans, and I've had people ask lately, and you see it all the time in football, is there's a lot of checks by your offensive linemen as well. And what are there's a lot of things just inside there, those inside the tackles, that things are going on, communication by your center and John Brinkman, and kind of enlighten fans on what goes on there too, because there's a lot of checks before the snap that the center has to do to communicate to his teammates.
Well, it sure is, and you can take a basic run play, and let's say we're running an inside zone to the right. Our offensive linemen essentially have to communicate what 2 linemen or what 3 linemen are working together to what linebacker. So, for example, you might have the right guard and right tackle working together up to the play side backer, or you might have the right tackle and the tight end working together to go into a certain backer. So that has to be communicated so that we don't have multiple guys blocking the same person and leaving one guy unblocked. And the nice thing is we don't have to deal with crowd noise in our conference essentially, and so that makes it a little bit easier. But that's where having continuity more than anything is going to help, because a lot of times they're going to call it out, but a lot of times just by looking at it they already know what it is. So even if they don't get the call, they still can make the play. And I think that's the biggest thing in offensive line play, is just that communication. And then just the flip end of it is pass protection, understanding a lot of our schemes, we have a man side and a zone side as far as our protection. So if you're to the zone side, they each have a gap, which is very simple. You know, they have the A gap, B gap, or C gap, you know, working inside out. If you're to the man side of the protection, you essentially have a man, and you have to go with him wherever possible. Now, they do work together as far as twists. You know, a lot of times you'll see defensive linemen and tackles twisting. You'll see Coach Darvaux working a lot with our offensive linemen, trying to pass that off, because essentially what they're trying to do is pick you off so that one guy can come around you know, untouched. And so that's the hardest part for an offensive lineman in pass protection, is working on those twists. And you know, that's why you don't want to be going 5-step drop every time, because if you get caught in one of those, you know, your potential of sack go way up. And so we try to mix it up as much as possible too, as far as 3-step, 5-step screens, sprint out, you know, so that we don't just have, our quarterback isn't always standing at 7 yards behind the ball, and they know exactly where to rush the quarterback.
And obviously everything that you just talked about there's always a result or something the defense is coming up with to confuse the offense. It's amazing the things that go on, you know, before each play, and how much film work is done to counteract each particular move. And now, continuing on as we talk more offensive scheme, and we'll look ahead to the defense you know, next week. But you talked about your different step drops for your quarterback and whatnot, and you know, giving the quarterback time to throw the football is so essential, and it gives him time to look at that second or third receiver. But talk about the other things that the quarterback has to do, Coach. You know, their footwork and where to hold the football. Every quarterback's a little bit different, but having that footwork is probably just as important on where they're going to throw the football is even arm strength.
Well, yeah, we always talk about footwork. It's probably one of the most important things playing the position. And if your feet aren't in good position, you're not going to be an accurate passer. You know, you're going to be sporadic. You're going to make some throws, but on a consistent basis, you're not going to be able to, you know, make plays as much as you like. So we really have our 3-step drop package. We have our 5-step drop package. When we do our 3-step drops, you know, essentially from underneath the center, you know, we try to get as much depth on that first step to get away from the line of scrimmage. And then really that second and third step, our whole focus is really just getting our balance, getting our feet underneath us, so that when our third foot hits the ground, the ball's coming out. We're not waiting for anything. So, you know, out of the shotgun, it's a little bit different. You're essentially catching the football and getting rid of it as quick as possible on a 3-step type play. As far as 5-step passing, you know, from underneath the center, we go, you know, basically get 3 good steps initially to get away from the line of scrimmage. Then our 4th and 5th step are essentially like the last 2 steps of our 3-step drop. We're just trying to get our weight underneath our hips so that when we do get back to our 5th step, we're ready to throw. Sometimes we'll throw right off our 5th step. Sometimes we will hitch forward and make a throw, and that all depends on the type of play that we have as well. And you know, that's the timing element that goes into our passing game. You know, some of them have to be thrown right off the 5th step where you don't hitch at all. Some of them we hitch forward. But we always talk with the quarterbacks as far as, you know, timing, you know, having a built-in clock in your mind. Your feet a lot of times are going to tell you when to get rid of that football. So, for example, on a 5-step drop, after that first hitch, the ball should be gone. After the second hitch, most of the times we're looking for a check down or an underneath throw. After that, all bets are off. We've got to get out of there. We can't be holding on to the football. Nothing good happens when you hold on to the football. You're going to throw an interception. You're going to get sacked. You're going to get stripped or with a fumble. So you know, we try to train that every day, and we actually have a tripod out in practice that we use for our 7-on-7 passing drills, and we set that clock for about 2.5 to 2.7 seconds. So we want to give our quarterbacks a constant reminder of how much time he has, or actually how little time he really has, because we want those guys getting rid of the football as quickly as possible.
And having success to throw the football, also being able to run the ball as well, because the last few weeks you fall behind in the second half and the defense knows you're probably going to pass. I think in that first quarter against Wayne and that entire first half, you really had some success running the football, and I'm sure that's something you'll look forward to try to do again this week against Minnesota State Moorhead.
Yeah, up, and we told our team before the game, we're going to make a commitment to running the football, especially early when the game is, still where it needs to be, and that takes a lot of pressure off a quarterback. It takes a lot of pressure off our offensive line because, that defensive line, has to play both ends of it. We'd like to continue that, this week, and we want to get our backs as many touches as possible. If we think they're very talented, they can do things after they get the football in their hands. So we want to continue to have that mindset, run the football, play action, really not get in that mode where we're just dropping back every single time like a 2-minute mode. That's just tough to do, and try to be consistent at it on a weekly basis.
Well, unfortunately, the Mustangs have lost 3 in a row, but still 6 games left to go this season. You have over half of the season ahead of you still, and I'm sure that was the word on Sunday was just let's forget about those. You want that taste, I guess, in your mouth, so you don't have that happen again.
Yeah.
But again, we've got to move forward now because the Dragons coming to town next Saturday.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to move forward. We play a game in less than a week, and so there's never very much time for our players to really think a whole lot about the last game. They watch the game on Sunday, and then all of a sudden we're already preparing for the next game. So they don't have much time. We really want to get back to the basics, get back to doing what we do, and try to eliminate some of those easy mistakes. This past week we had 9 penalties. 7 out of those 9 were on offense, and of those 7, most of them were pre-snap penalties as far as illegal formations, things that really shouldn't happen at the college level, and a lot of times it doesn't even happen at the high school level. So we have to get those things corrected for us to be successful.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question. Again, the Dragons come to town. They have a 2-3 record as well. Struggled last year. They have a new head coach that took over middle of last season, Joel Beard. He's an interim head coach this year for the Dragons, but obviously you're going to be looking ahead to see what the Dragons can do. But as you just mentioned, just got to take care of ourselves and do those type of things. That's probably what you're more concerned with, and focusing on that, because if we do things, as you talked about, eliminating the penalties and that type of thing, we'll be just fine.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you start losing a couple of games,